Hello again, guys. It is Free700. Today we are going to talk about a very special Death Guard space marine known as Ignatius Grulgor. Now, Grulgor, I really love his name. It's just so brutish, and it pretty much exemplifies who he is. He's a very brutish character. There's not much in the way of poetry in his words and dialect, and his battle strategies. So let's talk about it. Who the fuck is he? Grulgor is a more interesting individual, in my opinion, than Nathaniel Garrow, mostly because Grulgor and Nathaniel Garrow seem to share a lot of similarities despite their intense hatred for one another. This is actually more or less inspired my audiobook that I've been working on, really, is that both of these guys are traditionalists. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Death Guard, in their early stages back before the Horus Heresy, they had these traditions of inner strength will beat any outcome or any obstacle that is in your way. And this was an idea that was very staunch in their beliefs. They believed that with perseverance and endurance, your inner strength will topple over any outcome, any oppression that you're suffering, blah, blah, blah. This was a Terran belief. This was more of a Dusk Raider belief. And, of course, Nathaniel Garrow, who is Grulgor's exact opposite, would come to endure because Nathaniel Garrow is a Terran. This is the ideas he would have. Grulgor, on the other hand, is very different. Grulgor is barbarus spawn. That is right, he comes from Mortarian's homeworld. And on Barbarus, it's a much inhospitable place. And coming from Barbarus, he's kind of more adapted to Mortarian's line of thinking, which is that the weak should not be wasted time and effort. So, when it comes to Nathaniel Garrow, who believes in trying his best to help out his fellow man and help them fight off their oppression and stuff like that, Mortarian's a much different mindset. And Grulgor has inherited this. This is where, if you're not strong enough to fight off the shackles that bind you, then maybe you deserve those shackles. Maybe you deserve to die. This is more of what Grulgor's thinking is. So, when it comes to the whole Grulgor, who the fuck is he? We can already establish that he's kind of a bad person. He's just kind of there. He's just kind of there as a bad person where he just looks at someone who's suffering, someone who is being whipped by a mechanicus because he's not lifting up 3 tons of steel, and he would just look down at them and go, psh, if only you were strong enough to fight back, weakling, and then just walk off. This is the kind of guy that we will be seeing in novels. Especially in The Flight of the Eisenstein. He is very interesting there. So it's very awesome that we have 2 traditionalists in The Flight of the Eisenstein. We got Nathaniel Garrow, who's a staunch traditionalist, and then you got Grulgor, another traditionalist, but a very different set of traditions. This is awesome as fuck. To me. This is awesome as fuck to me. When you have 2 characters who share the same traits, but they are totally different as far as their specificities. Now, one of the cool things about Grulgor is that he's more of a warrior at heart. He's more true to Mortarian, which is that he believes that infantrymen can solve just about any sort of situation. Who needs to rely on vehicles? Who needs to rely on air support? Shit like that. An infantryman, if he's well-trained and well-equipped, which is what the Death Guard adhere to, then the infantryman could handle literally all of those things. This is more or less the line of thinking with Mortarian and Grulgor, and even Typhus to some extent. Typhus was more into the whole virus bombing stuff. But when it comes to Nathaniel Garrow is Terran-born and he's a Dusk Raider. So they believe more in, yes, having a good front line is good, but it's better if you have support, like, Terminators, also Predator tanks, also Dreadnoughts. But the Death Guard with Mortarian and Grulgor, they were more interested in just infantry. Equip and train your infantrymen extremely well to the point that an infantryman can go from a devastator in one battle to being an assault squad in another battle. Make him extremely trained to fit multiple roles. But, as always, make sure he's equipped with a melee weapon no matter what role he's in. This is something, again, Grulgor is very interested into. So as far as like a tactical person, he's a very warrior-esque. I would say he's about as warriors can get. The reason why I'm talking about his strategies and stuff is that Grulgor is actually a captain. He's the captain of the second great company of the Death Guard. Now, the Death Guard have only 7 companies, and they're not called just companies, they're called great companies. Because the reason why they're so great is that they're much bigger than other companies and other Astartes. So it's much like the Space Wolves, where their organization is very different from other chapters, legions. But to make it more fair is that each company is much, much, much bigger than others. So when it comes to the whole idea of being the second captain, it's actually pretty fascinating because that means that Grulgor has a bit of a tactical genius to him. He's also able to devise certain strategies and battle tactics that other people wouldn't do. This would be, of course, just basically infantry reliance, just following Mortarian's example of just using infantry, being in basically alien-type space hulks and just clearing out the ships. This was more or less what the Death Guard were doing during the Great Crusade, was just being in one big massive fleet, and one company would just go into an alien ship and just clear it out, corridor by corridor, just close combat, wiping shit out. This was, of course, something that Grulgor enjoyed. He liked this kind of fighting style. This was better. This was honorable, and it really showed their strength over the lesser beings. Also, Grulgor was also in favor of the idea of adorning certain injuries into your armor. So if a Death Guard got wounded in some sort of way, like let's say a little bit of acid hit their Space Marine power armor, now they'll let the acid stain stay because it shows how tough they are. It shows how badass the Death Guard are, that they could withstand such a blow. But they'll only allow it only if it doesn't compromise the strength and integrity of the armor. This is again another thing that Grulgor likes. He likes this idea. He's very barbarous. He's very barbarian type of person. He's very Mortarian boy. Something that's very interesting too is that we learned through the Great Crusade is that there is warrior lodges in the Death Guard at this time during the Horus Heresy and the Great Crusade. And it's pretty much open knowledge. It's really not that well hidden of a secret. It exists, but it's not that well hidden. And Grulgor would be a part of one of these, where he is very close with Typhus. Now, Typhus is a very interesting individual because he's not really loyal to Mortarion. He's loyal to Nurgle. So, the fact that Grulgor is friends with Typhus is very interesting because what we'll see later on in Grulgor's life is that he will actually take orders from Typhus and follow those orders more than he would take from Mortarion. This is kind of an awesome shift of character where he still follows the strategies and the more or less symbol that Mortarion sticks himself as, but he's going to actually listen to someone else when it comes to what he should be doing on a greater scale, who he should be following orders from. Now, you may think, well, Free 700, he looks up to Mortarion so much, he follows all this shit, he follows all these traditions. Why exactly would he easily just follow Typhus, who outright betrays Mortarion several times? Well, the reason why we learn is mostly because of Nathaniel Garrow. This is why I keep talking about him. You see, after destroying a really nasty Xeno species, the 7th Great Company, which is Nathaniel Garrow's company, Mortarion honors with a tradition known as the Cups. I know, very fucking poetic. The Cups. Very descriptive. So what it is Mortarion offers a cup, not the cups, just a cup, to whoever the warrior is that is in his Death Guard. And what happens is both of them drink these cups, and it turns out it is nasty, nasty poison that tests the extreme Space Marine endurance. Now, for Mortarion, he drinks this willy-nilly. To him, it's like wine. To everyone else, it is very tough to drink this and then somehow try to talk at the same time. Holy shit. This is tough to breathe in. It smells bad. It already causes reactions in your body just smelling the fucking thing, and now you gotta drink it? Fuck this. So either way, what happens is Mortarion, Typhus, and whoever the lucky warriors will drink these cups, and then they will shout to death, because of course the Death Guard never die. Grulgor, of course, does not like it that Nathaniel Garrow is being honored. Because you see, there's a bit of a racial schism in the Death Guard. There's Terrans, and then there's barbarus people. The barbarus people, which is Grulgor's people, believe more Mortarian's ideals. Fuck the weak, you guys just deserve to die. The Terrans are much different. They're much more honorable. They are a little bit more stoic. They're also the only ones who seem to know how to pilot these Bane blades and shit like that. As the barbarous people are more, again, infantrymen. They look up more to Mortarian's ideals rather than the Dusk Raider ideals. Also, something else, too, is that when it comes to the whole recruitment and initiations of Space Marines, if you fail to do a certain trial, then if you're with the Dusk Raiders will offer you a place as a housecarl. They'll say, hey, man, it's okay you couldn't triumph the trials. It's okay you weren't strong enough to go through with it. There are other ways you can help the Death Guard, like cleaning my armor, like preparing my food, stuff like that. So come be my housecarl. The barbarous people do not like this. They see it as a way of rewarding weakness. They see it as a way of chimping out those who basically could have been just a waste of time. There's really no other way to say it in a nice way. They're essentially just a waste of fucking life. They should have just died during the trials and saved everyone time, but now we gotta feed them, and now we have to somehow pretend like their existence is totally fine in the Legion. This is the way the barbarous people view it. As they view, if you can't succeed, you should just put a bolter to your head or just die during the trial. And we see this with Grulgor. He fucking hates Nathaniel Garrow so much because of these traditions. He is extremely against Nathaniel Garrow. And now Mortarion is honoring Nathaniel Garrow right during the flight of the Eisenstein, giving him the cups. This, of course, is seen as a betrayal to Grulgor. Hey, Mortarion's acknowledging this guy? Are you fucking serious? So he's pissed. So he looks to Typhus, and Typhus is just as pissed. Something really amazing happens here, though. And I really like this a lot in the book, is that Mortarion, of course, Nathaniel Garrow gets really badly wounded, so he's not able to join the fight on Istvan and suffer the betrayal like everyone else is suffering down below. So he's put on the Eisenstein, with a few of his own men, stuff like that. Grulgor is, mysteriously enough, placed alongside with him on this ship. That's a little bit too much commanding there when you have two commanders of two great companies on one tiny ship. That's just weird. That's just not normal. Why the fuck would that even be needed? So already questions are raised. Well, it turns out that Mortarion believes that Nathaniel Garrow could be persuaded to join the Death Guard against the Emperor. He believes it. He thinks that there's a chance. Well, Typhus does not. Typhus hates Nathaniel Garrow because of his Terran beliefs. He also hates him because he is extremely loyal to the Emperor. And he sees Grulgor, who doesn't take much convincing to say, hey, I want you to go on that ship and kill Nathaniel Garrow. Which is exactly why Grulgor is stationed there. Not because Mortarion orders him, but because Typhus ordered him. And because Typhus ordered him, Grulgor had no problem accepting. He's like, fuck yeah, I get to kill Nathaniel Garrow? Hell yeah. This leads to the death of Grulgor. As you see, the housecarl of Nathaniel Garrow is apparently no bitch. He may not be able to tough it through the trials, but he is certainly tough enough to slam the door shut and trap him and all of Grulgor's men in one room as apparently a stray bolter shot hits one of the Life Eater virus bombs that was put in the ship that was supposed to be detonated on Nathaniel Garrow's troops, but instead, the fragile glass broke ahead of time and trapped Grulgor in with it. So Grulgor, sucking shit, just pretty much dies. This is not the end of Grulgor. Grulgor dying is definitely not the end of his story, unfortunately for Nathaniel Garrow and a lot of people. As you see, Nurgle really enjoyed Grulgor's just barbarism. He just loved it so much that when the Gellerfield started to fail in the Eisenstein, the Nurgle's like, hey, Grulgor, get your ass back in there. And Grulgor becomes one of the very first Plague Marines that's ever existed. This is why he's so special. He's one of the first Plague Marines to ever exist. And of course, with the Gellerfields off, Nathaniel Garrow and his crew could not hurt Grulgor in this state until they exit the warp. all of a sudden, with the warp powers gone, Grulgor fades away. But man, was he fuck-ass mad. He is so fuck-ass mad against Nathaniel Garrow for everything that's happened. It's really amazing, though. I really like Ignatius Grulgor. He's a very weird individual. The way he is so up for tradition. But when things get tough, when the time starts to turn, and it seems like Mortarian's going to do one slight thing that will more or less miff him, he's quick to change his loyalty and say, hey, Typhus, if you need me for anything, I'm down for it. Now, of course, he actually becomes a demon prince later on in the books. I find it very crazy because he didn't really succeed in anything. I mean, he tried twice to kill Nathaniel Garrow, and he still fucking failed. But he does. He does actually become a demon prince. So besides that, this has been Free 700. I'm out. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Maybe you guys learned something new about the Death Guard. I find them a very fascinating legion, but I also like the individuals inside it more than I like the legion itself. Besides that, this has been Free 700. See you guys next time. Comment down below what you guys think. Maybe there's another person you guys want me to review. Maybe you guys want to hear another Death Guard individual. Maybe you guys want to hear a certain other individual. Besides that, see you guys next time.